Someone wrote to ask, how can a small self make decisions if the small self doesn't exist? There is no I. It's like you said the other evening, not this. Is it like you said the other evening, not this, not that? One more time. How can a small self make decisions if the small self doesn't exist? There is no I. Is it like you said the other evening? Not this, quote, not this, not that. To understand that there is no I requires first addressing whether one actually believes that there is no you or no me. The question already distinguishes between the two of us in implying that you, as me, you don't know the answer, but the writer, you don't know the answer, but are thinking that I could. It shows that you think that both a you and a me are real. Or if you were then asked what other differences there are between us, you could come up with an exhaustive list of them. The fact is that in the end, there is no one just like me, or no one just like you anywhere. We're all as it were, one of a kind. The fact is that in the end, it is of course absurd of me to suppose that you couldn't know me from you. But Buddhism is doing just that in saying that neither of us exists. Why it does this, however, is to make the point that we should be fully aware of both the relative and the absolute sides of our lives. To get this first requires recognizing that our lives that we think of as complete actually are not. We begin to do this in doing meditation. There we find times when we don't have any thoughts. While we are unlikely to have noticed it yet, our sense of self is based on being able to use thinking to make distinctions. With these distinctions, we create what we think of as ourselves. For when our minds are empty of thoughts, we are not experiencing being us or being me. What Buddhism teaches us is that this sense of I is at the source of most of our problems. When looking at where language comes from, we can see where the content of this small self also does. It is due to our relationships with others. We need words to relate with them, to relate with, and every thought we have about the relative world depends on them, on these words. We could not even know words, and we could not even know words if they hadn't been taught to us, and would not have a sense of our own small self if we did not have the words with which to form thoughts concerning it. We need the words. One answer to the question above, how can a small self make decisions if the small self doesn't exist, is, but it does exist. Making decisions is a matter of thinking things out after all. That such an understanding of self is built only out of words might be refuted in arguing that what is experienced in Zazen is not that there is no self per se, but rather that our mind is merely empty of thoughts then. This critique becomes useful later, but not before we have suffered through the limitations imposed on us in living our lives as if our small self was all there was. That is why the Chinese ancestor, as I've said before, Hui Neng, said that desire, anger, which is like fear, and delusion, which is like deluded thinking, all three using words, desire, anger, delusion, must be dealt with before there can be realization of our fundamental self, our Buddha nature. It is meditation that helps us get there or get here. Experiencing realization as something apart from our small self is not the end to practice, however, though it might seem so at the time. I have to rephrase that. Experiencing realization as something that doesn't seem to be us or ourself is not the end to practice, however, though it might seem so at the time. A subsequent part of practice functions to re-involve the small self following the initial seeming overwhelming by the big self. In the terms of this talk, the revelation of big self then leads to the reincorporation of the small self, although the two never actually appear at the same time. The big self is always in the absolute, and the small self always in the relative. Therefore, it is the small self that makes decisions, even if, from the vantage point of the big self, the small self does not exist. From the vantage point of the big self, the small self does not exist. It follows that Buddhism would acknowledge both sides of us. As in the process of practicing, we go from being one, this is one side, in which self-interest can reign, to the other in which it does not exist. We go from being more fragmented to being more completed. We go from being essentially selfish to being essentially compassionate. And we go from being often closed to all but ourselves to being open to everyone and everything. Ending up living as one while being accepting of all. That is why the answer, not this, not that, which the member above tentatively gave to her own question, was correct. Not this, not that. This has the same meaning as the words, go far beyond form and emptiness, that we recited less than 30 minutes ago. Thank you. Let me scoot over to include Jane here. And first is Avatar. Oh, okay, yeah, look close.
Move it back.
I can move this. All right, you got it now. Here it is.
So let me move
Yeah,
back on
yeah.
this. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I can-
Okay, that's pretty good.
that cushion doesn't go back.
It's all right. That's good.
I want it. Oh, anyway.
It's right here.
I know, but I'm trying to get it under the
Stand up.
family business here. All right, here we go. Okay, so any questions or comments or queries or jokes? Yes, Mike.
am I wrong to say that when you say the big self and the small self, when you make a decision, the small self is saying, I'm going to decide about this, and the big self just decides about it. There's no recognition of this, of the person. You know, is that making any sense to you?
It doesn't, it's not that. I mean, it's all your mind. It's all the mind.
Is the small self like a tool that you just use to take care of the day-to-day life, where the big self kind of is the part that, I don't know, it is over, I don't want to say watching over it all or something like that,
No,
but
no, it's not like that. No.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's very hard to, that's why I went back and changed the word in what I was saying, because I said that the big self and the small self are finding that it's separate from the big self. And that's not exactly separate. It's not separate. It's, in a way, it's definitely part of it. But the way that it works, it functions, is that we don't, that the absolute and the relative, or the ordinary life and beyond, is always separate for us. So
Are they different aspects of the same thing?
you know, yes, well, yeah, they're aspects of your mind. You know, I mean, Zen has a theory that I haven't really studied, but it's called, or I have, but I can't remember enough to quote it. It's called the mind-only theory. There's only mind, because knowing has to take place here. There's nowhere else knowing can take, or here, or the body, of course. Here I can know here too, and here and here and here, but still, I have the organs for receiving stuff, but no.
Do we create that aspect of the two?
I don't know. I would no. Well, yes and no, but you know, of course, they're physical. You know, I mean the small. It's not really a realm. These aren't really realms, but anyway, I mean everything. I'm talking now as Peter, sitting next to my lovely Jane, and with all my friends, you know, it's all relative. Of course, it's what there is, what there is, and so what's in a way incorporated is the knowledge of our oneness as well, because our only knowledge is of being differentiated, because that's what the scanners do. They differentiate, and of course we need all that. And this is all how we work, and we have language, which in a way is the only. As far as the way we talk, the way we use language anyway, it must be used different from any other animal. We don't know if the whales are speaking, not really, but it doesn't seem that way.
I have a question.
Oh, I know. Yeah, Bobby, you're third. We put our hands up here, but I don't know who was second. But let's say Matt.
Yeah, without desire, or with desire, that seems to determine all of our decisions. That seems to determine all of our actions. So, in a sense, without that, or with that, I don't exist. That's my feeling of it. That's, even from a logical standpoint, if I am not an actor as a small self, there's really only desire that's determining action and thought and all of these things. Desire being based on gain, self-gain, or self-interest, as you had mentioned. if I'm not an actor, if I'm not a decision maker, then what am I? And to me, I disappear. If I'm not acting out of gain, self-gain, I disappear. There's just sitting, there's just this, there's just that without self-reflection. There's no longer a need for self-reflection because
That's true. That's true.
because there's no importance to self.
I skipped this part of my talk. I didn't get a chance to write it. But anyway, you know, when you're sitting, who's sitting? Something is sitting, right? So it's arbitrarily divided up. But what Buddha was interested in, particularly, I mean, Shakyamuni was interested in, I guess, at first, was getting rid of the things by which we hurt ourselves with our mind. And these are greed, and then he listed them as 3 or 5 or like that. But anyway, greed, anger, and delusion. But those don't really, but there's another self. It's not a self because you don't identify it as me necessarily, but it's there. Something's there. Something's there, right? And so that's another story. So that's there, and we don't, if I'm doing something, I'm not thinking about it. I don't have to think about it. I'm just doing it. Even if my mind is working, I'm still just doing it. And then I say to myself, "Oh, you blew it," or most likely, more happily, "That's good. Came out nice. That came out nice." That's the self.
At the same time, I have actions that involve stress. I am in the midst of doing something that I'm performing because of the desire being present to gain. That action is filled with stress. It's filled with dukkha.
Yeah, that's the small self. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that is self-reflection present in action. But when I'm doing something where I'm really not concerned with outcome, except that the action is a part of whatever the day happens to involve, then there isn't a sense of dukkha. But I mean, I'm really never, I've had glimpses where there's action without dukkha, without self-gain, without self-reflection. But anyway, so I just wanted to mention that in relation to what you're saying.
Yeah. When you're hungry, is that dukkha? No. I mean, the feeling of hunger, the physical feeling of hunger, is that dukkha? No.
No.
When you're walking during kinhi, step by step, and is that dukkha? No.
At times.
Well, it could be, because if your mind has taken over, yes. That's when the self takes over. But you're happiest when that doesn't, as it were. You don't feel you're happy. You just, you don't have dukkha. You are naturally yourself. But that also, that self also is dealt with in the latter stages of practice. But anyway, your question was so multifolded. I felt like it was the COVID virus I'm looking at. So Sandy's next. Sandy.
Don't forget Daniel.
No, Daniel. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I guess you were right.
Yeah.
Daniel's
it
next.
was-
Daniel.
And then Bob.
So why is this also confusing?
Because I'm trying to explain it.
What are you trying to explain? I mean, it seems it should be simple and leading towards more clarity.
Well, in fact, that kind of, in a way, that was truly Suzuki Roshi Zen. He, even though he gave talks all the time, and in the talks were embedded all the as it were, wisdom of Buddhism and life and Soto Zen and himself. Basically, he only stressed doing Zen, just meditating. He always just said, just meditating. And he was very serious. And his close student, Mel, kind of also dealt in the same way. That's the whole thing is, well, now I'm gonna make a joke here now, pardon me. How do you keep these fools keep sitting for their own sake?
See, now that makes sense.
But that's what it all that's what it is. But of course, that every little piece of that is false, because you guys are not fools. You're a person just like we're all the same, and you are already keeping sitting. But I sat just doing meditation, I guess mindfulness. I suppose we didn't call it that back then, but a long time ago. But I just sat before I knew Buddhism, and then I stopped for a while. Then I started again, that sitting really didn't have any effect. But when you sit with the Dharma, or I can say a Dharma, ours is the Dharma, but this is a Dharma, that's also necessary. We have to feed all of you. You had to be, not we have to feed, but that's the wrong way to say it. But our minds have to be fed also. Otherwise, they'll get us in even more trouble. So I'm trying to keep you out of trouble, but I don't have a feeling that you're being in trouble.
Good.
Okay, good. Okay, now it's Baudry, who's going off the chart. Come back, Baudry. What's your question? I guess she's left. She's going someplace else for momentarily. Anyway, okay. Yes, Sandy?
Well, I was going to say greed, hate, and delusion, and then you said it, but to experience big mind, one has to give up delusion and self-centeredness and greed. Hold on 1 second, sorry. When I first came to the Zendo, I really got to experience by sitting, how my everyday mind was worked. I'd be sitting there and all of a sudden I'd be caught in some shopping list or things to do or a book I wanted to read or like that. And, like you're saying, they're self-centered. They're nothing to do with the world around me. They were all my own thoughts for my own good. And I haven't had too much problem with anger, but delusion, I really started to see how much when I'd look at something, it was either good or bad. A flower was either pretty or ugly. Everything had its opposite. And by falling into that and believing that was universal truth, that that person was not attractive and the other person was, it's this dichotomy, this constant, cutting things and dividing it into good and bad and all these different segments. Those things were what was causing my discomfort and pain, my feelings of not being complete. And I realized that all that had to be dropped or released by myself. My small self had to just let go so I could experience my larger self. And it took a lot of years of sitting to really have that brought home to me, where it became a part of me, where I can really feel myself when I start to go that way, and I can snap out of it. But most people, when they walk around, they have no concept that they're causing their own pain. And so that's one thing that coming here can teach us, that sitting can teach us how our mind operates. And I'm certainly glad I found that out, because otherwise it would have been a life full of continuing discomfort and pain. And so there's a lot more to life than that.
Thank you, Sandy. That was a very, very nice description.
Thank you.
Reiterating what I was talking about without giving an example for what I was talking about today. Anybody else?
Everybody's joyful.
Yeah, I like the way, you have to be aware of what's causing you. You become aware necessarily of seeing what's causing you pain. But just sitting first is enough. Just sitting. Okay, well, Jane, anything to add to it?
No, nothing today.
Okay. Yeah, we have two members in the Zendo. Yes, Matt. Oh, you're.
Yeah, just a question regarding what Sandy said. With regards to causing our own pain, but really, it seems to me, and this really is a question: isn't the pain causing itself though, rather than us causing our own pain? I mean, aren't we just kind of being driven by the aspects of desire? Aren't we just experiencing the discontent that leads to frustration and anger? Aren't those things just happenings rather than us causing them?
I think, Matt, that you have a better idea than necessary about desire, because the desire escapes in your analogy. The negative aspects, fear and anger, don't escape. You're very aware of those, but desire also, when you have something very, very physical, of course, there is that desire, but immediately the mind picks it up and tries to get it for you, and then when you're thinking only about yourself, then we get in trouble, because it's the same desire, and there's positive and negative sides, like electricity, up and down. Anyone else? I think that's it. Okay. Going. Going. Gone. Yes, Matt. Yes, Mark. Saved by the bell. Turn on your mic. Turn on your mic, Mark. Mike.
Okay, all right. So talking today about big mind, little mind, just brought this question up, but there's only one way to represent it for your comment is to do it visually. So I created this Venn diagram of big mind, small mind. Okay, so I'm going to share this
Oh,
out, and
okay.
then I want your comment on this or anybody else's.
That's a bad, that's.
Now, is this what? So once I put this together, because you were talking so much about big mind and small mind, I thought, well, in a Venn diagram, what is Zen mind? So is this where the permeation of the hard, negative, positive, viewpoint we take in our intellect? Is this where things kind of merge and blend?
I know, I would like to be able to say so, and Jane, what do you think?
I was just going to say, I would take the small circle and put it right in the middle of the big circle.
Ah, okay.
And I would say Zen mind is all of that together,
Let's see if I can do that.
every part of it together.
You might be right. That's true. Let's see if I can.
I have a thought on that.
What's
Okay,
that?
one minute, just a minute, Joanne, I'm right with you though.
Move that in the middle.
Your hand is up for us.
No, I'm in Photoshop. Let's see if I get the right layer here. There we go.
Yeah.
So we
And now
move this there.
Zen mind would be all of that.
Small mind, and then Zen mind is out here.
No, Zen mind, well, there's no out here. There's just, mind everywhere. And small mind, small part of mind.
Okay, so let's do
Small
this.
mind is another way of looking with big mind.
Yes.
And Zen mind would be all of that together.
Okay,
Includes
so let's do
all of it.
this. Okay. Right, there we go. Just right on top of it. So you
Just
don't
make the outline of big mind fuzzy.
I'll make it fun. Oh, you're right. You're right. So let's see, where are my, there's too many things to look at on the screen. Oh, this is in the way here. That's what's throwing me off. Opacity, let's do that.
Okay, Mark, you fiddle in, we'll let Joanne ask her question. And then we'll come back to you.
There we go.
Oh, that's it. Okay, wait, I guess you got.
No, Zen mind is fuzzy. I mean, make the outline of big mind fuzzy.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So
So this stays solid then, right?
you can leave that solid, but put big mind line not solid.
Okay, all right. So anyway, I will let you guys take it from here because I'm just,
So big mind would be everything on that paper, everything on the screen, everything in the room. everybody.
okay, I got you. Okay,
And that all together with the small mind, which can particularize things, is like one mind.
I got you.
There's no boundary to big mind. It's just everything.
That's what
It's
Jane is saying.
everything.
Jane is saying. that's a
Absolutely
nice idea.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
Okay.
Erase big mind.
I'll just put big mind here. I'm trying to make copies.
Yeah,
but-
big mind is everything else, everything.
Yeah,
But
big
both-
mind's the whole page.
both small mind and big mind are one mind.
Okay, so now I don't know. This is getting really, this Venn diagram thing doesn't work in Zen. Did you
No, it
guys?
doesn't work. It
No,
doesn't work. It
it's
doesn't work. It
yeah,
doesn't work. Because once again,
it's like words.
yeah.
Yes, okay, I'll work on this. This is gonna take a while to perfect.
Well, think of it. You can't put big mind into a word.
Oh, well, should have told me that in the first place. I could have just stopped all
I
this.
didn't know where you were going.
And big mind
Either.
and little mind inside big mind doesn't doesn't visually represent the situation.
Well, it would be the same as big mind.
This might be my koan, so to speak, for the rest of my life. So I'm going to work on it.
Yeah, you better.
Just erase the whole thing and you'll be
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Just think of it as your small mind is the way you deal with particulars.
Okay.
Big
so-
mind is how you perceive reality.
Sandy's hands up again?
Mhm.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry, Joanne's next.
Joanne.
Pardon me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this, we have a new mic.
Oh, okay.
It picks it up, yeah.
Well, I did find Mark's diagram useful in that it made me think of, like even Zen itself is a construct of a relative world. And, if you've got big mind out there that's not constricted by anything, but your small mind, which is constricted by everything, well, the intersection of the two is something that maybe you are applying your big mind to the relative world in that little part of the Venn diagram. You apply your right action, right thinking, awareness of delusion and anger and greed and all that. I mean, it's still a construct, right? Because you make decisions as a human being in the relative world. So I don't know. To me, the idea of the Venn diagram with that intersection was useful, just as a way of imagining. Well, how do you manifest big mind in this world where everything is this or that?
It keeps your priorities straight.
Yeah.
That's how you use it.
Yeah.
So that you fully function with your discriminating mind, but you're always aware of the big picture.
Yeah.
That's the important part, so that you don't mess up your priorities about what you're doing in the ordinary
Mhm.
world.
Right. So I don't know, for me, and that diagram kind of illustrated that
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
as we conceptualize it.
As we conceptually,
with
yeah,
this.
yeah.
well,
Virginia.
Oh, we have a question here.
oh, I'm sorry, Virginia, 1 minute, please. Sandy's on my screen here. Sandy
Oh.
first.
Oh.
And then, yeah.
Okay. What I wanted to say about I was in answer to Matt's question too, part of it. If you can't let go, even moment, if you can't let go of the greed, hate, and delusion, you need to let go of it even momentarily, just so you can experience the world as it is a little bit. You can experience the oneness of people, the beauty, or beauty is defining it as good or bad, but you can experience the world as it is, and what there is of you as part of it, and those around you, and that in itself will take away a lot of the pain, because it will allow you to experience oneness with everything. And that is something that we need to develop to be able to experience in our lives, because just look at what we've done to the planet, and that in itself is like personal pain. We're destroying something that's so beautiful and so a part of us, and we don't even really look at it on a daily basis. Most people, they don't see their oneness with everything around them. So that ability to put away the small mind just for a while, to be able to see how beautiful everything is, and how life, how we all exist together, and it's something you need to cultivate, that ability to let go of the delusions for a while, but you need them. you need a lot of those types of thoughts to save yourself from accidents, things like that. So it's necessary in your life to have both, but be able to recognize them.
Thank you, Cindy. Virginia?
Yeah, in that construct of big mind, little mind, Zen mind, where does beginner's mind come in?
What's that question? And what's that question about? With what mind do you eat these cakes?
That's small mind. Always questioning, looking for answers.
Oh. Anyway, it's a fun question, and it's a good way to end right now, I think.
Oh, no, we
got more?
gotta explore that one. The
Okay.
beginner's mind
Beginner's mind, okay.
would just be part of the whole mind.
Part of the what?
The whole mind.
The whole mind.
It would just be part of mind.
So
And
it's totally Zen.
yeah, so a beginner's mind would be not boundaries, no boundaries, because it's open. So the minute that you close to everything, then you're starting in a particular way of looking at things. This is okay, that's not okay. Beginner's mind doesn't close like that. It leaves everything open just, to see what happens and to learn. That's how I would see it.
Is Jane?
Yeah.
Is beginner's mind like child's mind, the constant questing for knowledge and wanting to understand and know?
Yes, but it also has the advantage of being more mature, say, than a child mind. So it's a child mind is completely open, but doesn't have the basis of the years to balance other things. So it can run out in front of a car without thinking about it, and an adult would immediately see, oh, that's not safe, I wouldn't do it, etc.
Right.
So the beginner's mind is an adult mind, but it's a mind that's free like a child's mind without heavy boundaries to it.
Thank you.
Do you say non-conceptual, non-judgmental as a beginner?
Yeah, it doesn't rely on concepts to act. So when you come into Zazen, you're open and you say, okay, whatever's going to happen, I'll sit. And after a year or two, you start saying, well, where are the experiences? Where's the calmness I was expecting, etc. The beginner's mind has been put aside for that time. And so you have to open it all over again. Did you have something, Steve? Did I see your hand up earlier? Peter.
Go, Steve, yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably way off on this, but this is just my personal experience. Is the small mind is the critiquing mind, and when things come from my heart, that's my big mind, because I really don't think about it. It's something that I do as a human being, Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it. So is that way off thinking that?
Oh. No, that's right. I think that's perfectly right. Yes, your big mind is your truly human mind that includes everybody, loves everybody, wants to basically connect with everything. Yeah, I do like that.
It also makes it easier for me to decipher that when I'm critiquing myself about things. Is that from the heart? Because when it's from the heart, it's so pure. There's nothing to be said anymore. It's me.
Yeah, it's nonverbal too, so it's a lot more enjoyable, actually.
Right. I've really noticed how now that me and my wife are retired together and in close quarters a lot, speaking can really screw things up.
It's true, In Japan, they have a saying: when a couple has been together for a number of years and they're getting older and all that, they develop Ishin Denshin, which is they don't have to speak anymore. They understand each other already.
Hope we get there.
It just means they develop one mind instead of two. And so they can communicate that between them, this one mind of understanding. I think
that happens.
Description.
I have to be fair. That does happen sometimes, but when the words get caught up, it gets,
Yeah, well, That's also, well, that's true in everything, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
words can be a real problem. That's
Okay.
true.
Sandy?
Is that kind of like if you adopt a dog, you start looking like the dog?
Each intention, huh? I don't see why not.
That's a joke. She's telling a joke.
I know that. I know that, but I still
So
think
you're
that's.
telling a joke.
Oh. Oh, I wasn't sure who you were referring to.
Okay, anything else today?